Just before this episode, here's how you can get more from Never a Truer Word. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you can subscribe to this channel to get early access to the weekly analysis episodes, video episodes so you can see the statements as I analyse them, and exclusive content too. And if you're here on YouTube, then become a member of the channel to get early access to everything and exclusive content not available anywhere else. Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this episode is going to look at the murder of Elizabeth Liz Barraza. It happened 5 years ago. I've been covering this murder for a couple of years on this channel, and I know it's something that intrigues a lot of people. In fact, the video that we're going to look at was suggested by one of the audience here. So it's a case that is very intriguing to many people. It's a classic unsolved murder case. It happened 5 years ago, February 2019, and Liz was gunned down on her own driveway, brutally, like a hit-style execution, early one morning while she was setting up for a garage sale. It's a classic murder mystery, like I said. It's unsolved. There are few clues, despite this happening in full view of technology, a car being involved, which was caught on cameras as well. Very few clues as to what happened, and as far as I know, no suspects. Liz was married to Sergio, and Sergio does a lot of talking. Now, Sergio's had some interest from people because, well, statistics. Sergio is the husband of Liz. It's often the husband that murders the spouse. Yeah, also we've seen videos of the Chris Watts, Scott Petersons of this world. So Sergio has attracted a lot of interest. And we're going to look at Sergio's words in a recent interview with Nancy Grace to see if we can find out what was going on. From was he involved? Is he hiding something? Down to, is he completely innocent, or does he know more than he's saying? And what we're going to do is look at the words that Sergio uses, because that's what we do in this channel, only the words. And Sergio's going to say some interesting things. We're going to hear from him talking to the police on the morning Liz was murdered and saying who he thinks is the most likely suspect for Lizzie's murder. And also, we're going to hear him talk about a polygraph test. Now, what do you take from his answers here?
Let me ask you very quickly, and I'm trying to get as much evidence as I can in as quickly as I can. Have you taken a polygraph?
Yes.
Have you taken one or two polygraphs?
I believe it was only one. Yes, it was one.
Did you pass the polygraph?
When I spoke to Detective Ritchie, he told me I had.
What do you get there? Do you pick anything up in what Sergio says? We'll go through that later on in this episode, but let's start at the very beginning.
Tell us what happened that morning, to your recollection.
Well, that morning just started off by Liz and I just starting our day normally. She left early that morning to go get coffee, returned back to the home. We started preparing for the garage sale. I helped her with a few big items. I was even a little bit late for work to make sure I could help her with everything I could. And
where do you work?
I kissed. I was a contractor at the time, a hardwood flooring contractor. So I would meet my employees at different locations and just pick them up there, and we'd go to work. So I was heading to, when I left her, I just headed to the nearest construction shop nearby, and I was there when I got the notification, and it was kind of crazy. I was like, what's going on? I had just left. I thought maybe an accident happened in front of the house. Maybe Liz was trying to help, because she's just that kind of person who immediately would just try to do the right thing and do good stuff. So I thought she was just busy trying to be helpful. And then I saw a police officer cross the camera, and I tried to ask them for information, and they told me to come to the home. Something had happened to my wife, and I needed to be there. I tried to get information, but I was just told to make it to the home. And when I made it to the home, I could see that there was blood in the driveway, and I was just in complete shock because I was hoping that wasn't Liz's blood.
So it starts off with Sergio. Tell us what happened that morning to your recollection. and he says what happened that morning. And he starts with, well, that morning started off. So he does answer the question. It's a great question. Tell us what happened that morning to your recollection, because the person answering the question, if they're answering truthfully, will focus in on what's important to them. This what happened question, we should always look at the start of the timeline. And his timeline there starts at the very beginning of the morning. I've seen interviews with people where it's what happened that morning, and they talk about what time they went to bed the night before. And that makes me go, oh, did something happen the night before? Because you've been asked about the morning and you've gone back to the night before. But Sergio does answer the question, and he talks about what happened that morning. It's not all good though. He starts his answer with well. Now, when someone answers a question and starts with the word well, it doesn't mean they're going to tell you a lie, but it's an indication that something's coming where maybe I'm going to give you some reasons and excuses rather than just full events. It's a red flag. It doesn't mean the person's lying. It just means pay attention to what it is they're saying. And he follows that well up by saying, well, that morning just started off by Liz and I just starting our day normally. So this just, again, is another word that puts me on alert for what else is happening. Just quite often happens when someone's trying to focus our attention or make something seem really small when it was actually really big. The word just is used in deception a lot. So that morning just started off by Liz and I just starting our day normally. I have no allegations or proof of anything at this point, but I'm saying, why are you doing well and why are you doing these justs? Did something else happen that morning at that point? Was there a little bit more going on here that you're hiding and you're trying to focus our attention on just starting off normally with this word just? Sergio refers to his wife as Liz by her name here. That indicates definite closeness. Certainly doesn't indicate any estrangement or any anger that was there that morning, because he calls her Liz first of all. And if he called her or she, then I would be a bit more worried about that. But no, he refers to her straight off as Liz. However, what I notice is when he refers to Liz and himself all the way through that morning, it's always separate. So he doesn't say that morning started off by us starting our day normally. It's by Liz and I starting our day normally. So that's separate. Liz and I started our day normally. There's no unity there with a word like we. More separation here. She left early that morning to go get coffee, returned back home. Then we've got something together. We started preparing for the garage sale. So there we've got the we there. But then after that, again, it's separate. I helped her with a few big items. So separate. I was even a little bit late for work. So again, this is just Sergio. I could help her with everything I could, and I kissed her. So that morning, maybe entirely naturally, but what I can get from those words is there was a lot of separation there. There's very little sign of unity apart from we started preparing for the garage sale. Sergio mentions the concept of help twice, and this is very interesting to me because as we go on through this interview, he talks about helping a lot. I helped her with a few big items. I wanted to make sure I could help her with everything I could, is what he said. Sergio talks about helping a lot here. I think it's a very important concept to him. We'll see why. I think that could be important a little bit later. But interestingly, it's not that I helped her with a few big items, so that's very direct. But then it's only make sure I could help her with everything I could. So there's some qualification there. It's not to make sure I could help her, to make sure I could help her with everything. It's to make sure I could help her with everything I could. So a little bit of qualification there. Also, Sergio seems to be wanting to paint himself as a great guy here. So there's nothing positive about Liz there. I'm not saying there's anything negative about Liz. It's very neutral about Liz there. But he's very positive about himself. Look how good he is. He helped her with a few big items, eh? The guy helping the woman with some big stuff. I was even late for work. Look how good I am. I was helping Liz out. Made myself late for work. I made myself bad so I could be good towards her, so I could help her with everything I could. So, I'm not just helping with a little thing, I'm helping with everything. And he says, and then I kissed her. It wasn't we kissed, it was I kissed her. He's interrupted by Nancy Grace as he says that, but he's making himself look like a very good guy there. Why is that? Also, something I noticed is he says, we're starting our day normally. Now, we don't notice normal. We're exception machines. For example, have you ever walked into someone's house and noticed a smell? That smell could be pleasant, it could be horrible, but you walk in and you notice that smell, but we don't notice how our own homes smell because we get it all the time. That's normal to us, and we don't notice normal. It's the same thing as if we're driving and we're in that sort of state where we're not really thinking about driving. Our car is just going straight ahead. But if someone pulls out in front of us, well, that's not normal. And we notice that and we take action. We're not normal machines. We're exception machines. We don't notice when we start our day normally. We just start our day normally. It's not something that we really think to mention. And quite often, in deception, when someone is trying to say that everything was as usual, even though things were not as usual, they will talk about how normal things were. And that's what I'm saying here. He says, Liz and I just starting our days normally. So I'm getting a picture from some of this language at the very start of the day. There was something not normal. Was there something between them that they weren't quite as a unit like they normally are? We'll see later Sergio refer to Liz and himself as we a lot, and he doesn't do that there. Nancy Grace asks Sergio, where do you work? And his answer is, I was a contractor at the time, a hardwood flooring contractor. So I would meet my employees at different locations and just pick them up there and we'd go to work. So was heading to, when I left her, just headed to the nearest, construction shop nearby. And I was there when I got the notification, and it was just kind of crazy. I was like, what's going on that I had just left? Interesting answer here. He's asked, where do you work? Where do you work? And he does not say where he worked at the time. He doesn't say it. Why does he not say that? He does mention locations, but that's only where he was meeting his employees. I would meet my employees at different locations. So that's not an answer to the question, where do you work? And then he goes extra. So the very start of the answer does at least refer to work. I was a contractor at the time, a hardwood flooring contractor. I would meet my employees at different locations and pick them up there and we'd go to work. So that does deal with work, but the next bit is all extra. I was heading to the nearest construction shop nearby. Well, that's when I got the notification. So what is going on there with that extra? Why is it important for him to give us that extra? It could be the where do you work was an interruption of the story he was telling about the morning. So he could just be trying to get back on that story. But did you notice here, when he was asked, where do you work? It did not flow. It was not smooth, like when he was saying about helping with the garage sale and the interactions and the actions that he and Liz had that morning. It was was heading to, when I left her, I just headed to the nearest, construction shop nearby. It doesn't flow. It's not smooth. When he's asked, where do you work? He gets very jumpy and very stuttery in his answer. Also, he talks about heading to the nearest construction shop nearby, that repetition of near. Is it important for him to say he was close to Liz when this happened? Or is there some other reason why he needs to really tell us twice this construction shop was the nearest and it was nearby? But this whole part about where he works, it's not smooth. It's got him very jumpy. He goes on to talk about what happened there when he got the notification. I notice he refers again to Liz as Liz twice, a reassuring fact for me. He says maybe Liz was trying to help, and then later on he says, I was hoping that wasn't Lizzie's blood. So again, I'm not spotting that distance between them. Although they were doing things apart, I'm not spotting any distance or kind of derogatory feeling towards Liz there. We've got more mention of help. Maybe Liz was trying to help. That's the type of person. She was the type of person who immediately would try and do the right thing. I thought she was busy trying to be helpful. So help comes up again. But notice it's not helping. He is introducing just the concept of trying to help. So trying suggests no success. Trying suggests failure. Liz was trying to help. She would just try to do the right thing. She was busy trying to be helpful. So in all of that, it's just trying to help. It's not helping, it's trying to help. And he does talk very positively about who Liz is here. He says maybe Liz was trying to help because she's just that kind of person who immediately would just try to do the right thing and do good stuff. So I thought she was just busy trying to be helpful. Now listen, if he was talking about her badly, if he was talking ill of his ex-wife after she's been murdered, I would have questions. I would be like, why are you putting down a murdered person? And he's not doing that here. He's talking positively about her, but trying to help, and this concept of help that comes up all the time. Now, That trying to help is an explanation that's given by someone that we might label a busybody. A busybody might get in trouble for doing something and say, listen, I was just trying to help. And I wonder, was Liz a bit of a busybody? You know, was she inserting herself, maybe with very positive intentions? I'm not trying to blame a victim here at all, but maybe she was always trying to help, and maybe that wound people up sometimes. That, yeah, I don't know, maybe people are going, hey, goody two shoes, or maybe people are like, gosh, she's always trying to poke her nose in and, you know, trying to get involved in everything. That seems to be the type of personality that he's describing there. He's describing it very positively, and there are lots of positive attributes about it. But I wonder, was Liz a busybody? And look, this is about trying to find out what happened to Liz. Did she wind some people up the wrong way? Sergio stutters a lot here, and when I saw a police officer across the camera, and I tried to ask them for information. Something had happened to my wife, and I needed to be there. When I made it home, I could see that there was blood. The points he stutters on here are all stressors in the story. So I believe he's telling us a truthful story here, and the stress from the time is coming back, because he stutters on, I saw a police officer across the camera. Well, that must be a really stressful experience at the time, and is probably a horrible memory now. I tried to ask them for information. That would, again, can you imagine, you see a police officer on your camera and you're trying to get information, fearing the worst. That would be a stressful moment. I needed to be there. So again, a stressful moment. The police officer saying, get yourself here right now. And then seeing blood on the driveway. Again, he stutters. I could see there was blood in the driveway. So again, we've got this stress going on there. So I think that's what's going on with all the stutters there. It's the stress coming out that he saw. He says, I could see that there was blood in the driveway. I was in complete shock because I was hoping it wasn't Lizzie's blood. That's quite a vivid description. Quite often in guilty people, we'll see them minimise and not talk vividly about a crime. They'll turn the severity of what was there down. But again, that is quite vivid. That suggests to me a truthful person. I'm not picking up from this passage anyway, guilty knowledge there, because he's quite willing to share a gruesome detail of the crime. There was blood in the driveway, and he also mentions it being Lizzie's blood. That's quite a gruesome detail for a husband to talk about, but suggestive here of someone who's not hiding any guilty knowledge, not trying to downplay the severity of what happened or the severity of what they saw. Let's hear some more from Sergio.
The pickup truck that was captured on surveillance video nearby shortly before you left for work, in other words, the driver was lying in wait. Investigators believe the shooter may have been waiting for you to leave to make sure Liz was alone. Did you have any sense of a car, a vehicle, a truck in wait?
No, ma'am. Whenever I left for work, it was just like a normal day for us. Liz was set up for that garage sale, and I was just headed to work like a normal day. I wasn't looking for anything suspicious or anything. I just headed out.
Okay, so this is Nancy asking about a car that was seen on cameras. In fact, it was the car of the person that shot Liz. And Nancy says, did you have any sense of a car, a vehicle, a truck in wait? Sergio's answer is no, ma'am. Whenever I left for work, it was just like a normal day for us. Liz was set up for that garage sale, and I was just headed to work like a normal day. I wasn't looking for anything suspicious or anything. I just headed out. Now, this is a yes-no question. Did you have any sense of a car, a vehicle, or truck in wait? A yes-no question. We're expecting the yes-no show to that. So do we get a yes or a no somewhere at the very start of the answer? And we do. We get a no. It's the very first word. So that means an indication that we're getting an honest answer here, that he did not have any sense of a car, a vehicle, or a truck lying in wait. He says, I wasn't looking out for anything suspicious or anything. I just headed out. And that answers the question. Did you have any sense of a car, a vehicle, or a truck in wait? And if the answer had been no, I wasn't looking for anything suspicious or anything, I just headed out. But he goes extra in the middle there and introduces some concepts that he wasn't asked about, telling us that it was just like a normal day. There was a garage sale and he headed for work like a normal day. Why has he added that extra in? What is the point in his head of giving more than he was asked for there, which is talking about it being a normal day? He also says, whenever I left for work, it was just like a normal day for us. So that's not about the specific time he left for work on the day his wife was killed. He's just talking about whenever I left for work. And then he says it was just like a normal day for us. I was just headed out to work like a normal day. Again, remember, people talking about normality, it's not usual because we don't notice normal. And also, this was not a normal day. Because Liz was holding a garage sale. That doesn't happen every day. He had to help set up the garage sale. That's not a normal day. And he told us as well he was late for work. Again, not a normal day. But he wants to tell us, for some reason, it was just a normal day. Once more, makes me think something else was happening that morning. Now, I'm not saying that something else is he was planning the murder or had commissioned the hit on his wife. What I am saying is that for some reason, he wants us to convince us and get across to us, because he's gone extra with this. It was a normal day, and something about that day wasn't normal, and it wasn't normal. You know, he is kind of deceiving us here because there was the garage sale. He was late for work. It was not a normal day, so why is he telling us it was a normal day? Here's some more from Sergio.
You stated that you're in wood flooring, and you were a contractor going to meet who and where?
My employees that I worked with at a construction shop nearby.
They were open at 7 in the morning?
Yes, it was like a Lowe's. So they open at 6 a.m. or so.
And I do not want to be blunt at all, Sergio, but do your employees confirm that meeting?
Yes, yeah.
The question that Nancy asks there, this is going back to where he was that morning. You stated that you're in wood flooring and you were a contractor going to meet who and where. So the question is, you were going to meet who and where. There's two parts to the question, who and where. Does Sergio answer that question? Yeah, he does. He tells us who, my employees, and he tells us where, the construction shop nearby. So once more, we see him directly answering the question that he's asked. He's not in storytelling mode. He's not really cramming in more or taking us off the highway, taking us on an off ramp to something else that he's not been asked to talk about, but is important for him to get across. He listens to the question and he answers the question directly. The who, my employees, where, the construction shop nearby. But once more, we have this not smooth going on when he talks about what he did when he left. He says, my employees that I worked with at construction shop nearby. He's asked, they were open at 7 in the morning, and he says, yeah, so it was like a Lowe's, so they were open at 6 a.m. or so. So we've got while he thinks about what he's going to say. My employees, a construction shop. It was like a Lowe's. Well, was it a Lowe's or was it not a Lowe's? And they open at 6 a.m. or so. Did they open at 6 a.m. or not? You know, there's a lot of vagueness here. And this is the second time that we've seen this not smooth delivery when he talks about what he did when he left that morning. Now, I've got a theory on this. I do not think that what he's doing is hiding the fact that he actually didn't go to work because he was up to no good at the point that his wife was murdered. I just wonder if there's something that he wants to conceal about his work, or something he wants to conceal about the people who work for him, or the job he was doing. For example, were illegal workers involved, non-documented people. So is that what he was doing? Was he going around picking up people who he should not have been employing? Or he talks very vaguely about this construction shop that was like a Lowe's. Was he buying cheap, poor quality equipment to do the job with, but charging for premium equipment or wood or whatever? I don't know. I don't know the answer. But I think potentially there's something dodgy about the employment or the work that was going on that morning. Again, does this lead to a potential reason why his wife was murdered, that he was involved in something that maybe he shouldn't have been. I don't know, but there's something odd about the way he talks about his work that morning. But look, at the very end, and this is why I think this is something about the job and not about his actions, he's asked outright, do your employees confirm that meeting? And he says, yeah, yes, yeah. Very straightforward, very clear, no qualification in there whatsoever. It's just a very straightforward yes and yeah. Nancy now has another question for Sergio.
Sergio, tell me about your relationship with her.
To me, it was a storybook relationship. We had the most amazing time together. We met in college and immediately were attracted to one another. We started off as friends and over time just became a couple and just started to do so much together. We did charity work together. We did a whole bunch of nerdy, like, Comic-Con stuff together. We did all the parks in Florida and traveled together. It was just the most amazing time, and some of the best moments of my life have been with her. And when this happened, it completely shattered that life I had with her. It was just out of the blue. This happened one night. You're watching Netflix and movies with your spouse. The next day you're at a hospital. It's just something out of an alternate universe that I feel like I was thrown into.
Great wide open question from Nancy Grace there. Tell me about your relationship with her. So what he chooses to say, the words he chooses to use, will reveal a lot about how he sees the relationship. And he's asked, tell me about your relationship with her. And he goes chronologically through the relationship, which is quite interesting. He tells it like a timeline. He doesn't talk about the core of the relationship, maybe just like who they were and how they related. He tells it like a timeline, but he does answer the question. Once again, very directly, he answers the question. Well, sort of, because he talks about that timeline. The storybook relationship is the overarching theme, I think, there. We had the most amazing time together. It tells how they met and then tells how the relationship evolved over time, and says some of the best moments in my life have been with her. So a very nice description of the relationship. And then he goes extra. And then he talks about what happened around the time of death and how that is affecting him. He's asked, Sergio, tell me about the relationship with her. And while he gives a very nice, very convincing answer about how they related, he starts with, to me. To me was a storybook relationship. Not it was a storybook relationship or we had a storybook relationship. He talks about to me. That suggests to me that there are other ways of describing it, or other people may describe it in different ways. And this is just Sergio's version of what the relationship was like. But for him to say to me, then I think potentially there are other stories to be told about that relationship. Now, look, this is in pronoun terms all about them as a couple. So like that when he was describing the morning and I said it's all she and I, they're all separate. Here he does talk about them together all the time using joint pronouns. We had the most amazing time together. We met in college. We were attracted to one another. We started off as friends. We became a couple and started to do so much together. So all joint pronouns. We did charity work together. So in that sentence, two joinings there, we and together. We did a whole bunch of nerdy stuff together. We did all the parks in Florida, and some of the best moments in my life have been with her. So definitely a strong relationship and unity there between the pair of them. His language there, unlike that answer about the morning, his words there are so much about unity. And then the split happens, and it does happen after he talks about her death. So when this happened, then it's the life I had with her. So they're still there, they're still together, but he split them up. I had with her. It's not the life we had together, it's the life I had with her. And he's in an alternate universe I feel like I was thrown into. So he's only talking about himself there. Perfectly natural. At the moment of the murder, his pronouns change from being joint and we to I and her. There is one thing in the middle of it, though, that is quite interesting. This happened one night. You're watching Netflix and movies with your spouse. The next day, you're at a hospital. So this is about you and not him. You're watching Netflix with your spouse and you're at hospital. So he's not talking about him there. There's many reasons he could do that. Maybe he's getting you to get inside your head and think about you're watching Netflix with your spouse. You do not know what's happening there. He could be just distancing because that's a very, very painful thing for him. So he's not going to talk about himself personally here. He's not going to open himself up intimately like that. Because I don't know if he was watching Netflix the night before, but he was at the hospital the next day. So it's factual and it's true. But I think there's, again, maybe it's evidence of pain there, or maybe he's wanting to get you to think like that. I looked at how the relationship evolved as well, because he gives a timeline here and it's chronological order. I can see how the relationship evolved. So at the very beginning, they had the most amazing time together. We met in college. So this is about relationship. This is about them, getting together and meeting each other and interacting together. We were attracted to one another. We were friends and we became a couple. So there's very much there, them getting together. That really is about relationship. It's about feelings and attraction and so on. And then on became a couple. So once they became a couple, he says it himself, we started to do so much together. And after that became a couple, everything he talks about is actions. It's what we did. So we became a couple and started to do so much together. We did charity work. We did a whole bunch of nerdy stuff. We did all the parks in Florida. So it's moved. When they become a couple, it's stopped being about doing things, feeling things together, and become doing things together. That just shows, again, potentially nothing suspicious in this, just shows a relationship moving on. At the very end, he says, he's been something out of an alternate universe, feels like something I was thrown into. So look, that is not a phrase that has guilty knowledge in it there. That is him saying, in a very casual way, these are events that he was forced into by some external action. I was thrown into this alternate universe. Once more with Sergio, I'm just not seeing guilty knowledge inside his words. He does not seem to be hiding anything there. That, again, it's just an event that has happened to him. He has not made things happen. He's not been the instigator in that phrase. Things have happened to him. Still to come, we're going to look at the suspects that Sergio names and how did you get on with the polygraph?
Let me ask you very quickly, and I'm trying to get as much evidence as I can in as quickly as I can. Have you taken a polygraph?
Yes.
Have you taken one or two polygraphs?
I believe it was only one. Yes, it was one.
Did you pass the polygraph?
When I spoke to Detective Ritchie, he told me I had.
Lots and lots in that answer about the polygraph. If you're enjoying this and you want to get more episodes, the follow button or the subscribe button means you will get weekly deep dive analysis into the words that people choose to use, delivered directly to you however you consume this episode. If you press the like button, that just helps this get out to more people. I know a lot of people are interested in the murder of Liz. Just like I say, it's a classic unsolved murder case. So please share this with anyone that you think would be interested as well. And you can press the like button, that will get it to more people. And if you want to get even more from this, then if you subscribe on Spotify or become a member of the YouTube channel, you will get episodes like this before anyone else. And also you will get bonus exclusive episodes too. If you do any one of those things, thank you so much. Are you ready for some more Sergio? This is where it gets interesting.
What other events would you attend at which you would dress up?
We would go to children's hospitals to visit kids there, to cheer them up. We would go to community events, all in Houston area. We would also, like you said, go to like the Renaissance Festival for fun. Just all around, just to have a good time throughout the community and helping kids out. That's what we enjoyed and loved to do together.
Did you ever dress up with other people? Did you have a group surrounding you?
Yes, we were a part of a charity group that they have a community across the world, honestly, that does community events like this for Star Wars and the communities that they're in. And we all kind of communicate and travel around, meet each other and help each other out.
This is Sergio talking about him and Lizzie's hobby, I guess, which was dressing up and going out in the world in costume. He's asked, what other events would you attend at which you would dress up? Now, once again, I see this real unity between them in Sergio's language, because he talks about we. We would go to children's hospitals. We would go to community events. We would also go to like Renaissance Festival. That's what we enjoyed and we loved to do together. We've got that word love there as well. So that just says to me that there was a lot of unity between them. There's no distance between them. Maybe distance that morning in the way he answered that question, but right here, and when he talks about the relationship in general, just no distance whatsoever. He doesn't talk about it from his point of view. He talks about it from the joint point of view. He uses that word we there. Once again, we've got this concept of helping. He says just to have a good time throughout the community and helping kids out. Helping is really, really an important concept to Sergio for some reason. He loves to talk about helping. He's asked, did you ever dress up with other people? Do you have a group surrounding you? He says, yes, we were part of a charity group that they have a community across the world, honestly, that does community events like this for Star Wars and the communities that they're in. And we all kind of communicate and travel around, meet each other and help each other out. Very much like when he was talking about going to pick up his employees, this is not a smooth answer. He's quite smooth elsewhere. When he's talking about their relationship, when he's talking about the work that they do for charity, it was very smooth. But this is really not smooth. Look, we have a community across the world, all kinds of communicate. It's not smooth. I think we'll find out why that's not smooth in a minute, by the way. Notice the size that he talks about here. He's only asked about, do you dress up with other people? And he could have said, yeah, we're part of a charity group that does good work in the community. But he wants to talk about the size of these groups here, or the size of the groups, because he talks about it being across the world. He talks about the communities that they are in. So that's not the community that him and Liz were in. This is they. So this is obviously wider, bigger communities. He's talked about across the world. So this is very global. We kind of communicate. Well, communicate and suggests that sort of remoteness, doesn't it? That he was communicating with other groups and meet each other. So again, that suggests meeting each other, meetups. I think your Comic-Con, things like that. That is concept that's in that world. So there's a largeness that comes across here. Is that important to Sergio, the size or the distance or the fact that not everyone was well known because they were all across the world? Don't know, but it's very interesting that he mentions that. And also, here we have help again. We would travel around, meet each other and help each other out. Very, very interesting. Now, Nancy's going to show Sergio some footage taken by the police in the back of a police cruiser on the morning that Liz was murdered. Sergio has come home and he is talking to the police. Have a listen to what he says, because this is where he's going to mention who he thinks would be a suspect in the murder of his wife. And Nancy is then going to ask him some questions about what he said.
And I just saw on the camera, this vehicle pulls up and turns around, I guess right there, and then, like, I don't hear anything for a second, and then I just hear the 4 shots and her scream, and that's it. I can show you the video. No, I've never seen the vehicle ever. The only thing I can think of is, I don't even want to consider it that, because we're a part of a charity group, and we're going through these little election things, and there's a couple people that just don't get along with us, but not enough to come over and shoot my wife.
Sergio, what are you talking about?
At the time we're in the group we were in, like I was saying, there's just elections for officers within the community. I mean, within the charity group, and as elections go, there's like discussions and arguments that happen, and at the time that's what was happening. But like I said, I don't believe anyone in this group would ever hurt anyone like this. This is a group for good.
Okay, so in the back of the cruiser, we heard this. I just saw the camera. The vehicle pulls up and goes around. I guess right there and then, like, I don't hear anything for a second, and then I just hear the 4 shots and her scream. Then there's some crosstalk. He says, I've never seen the vehicle. The only thing I can think of is, I don't even want to consider that, because we're part of a charity group and we're going through these little election things, and there's a couple people that just don't get along with us, but not enough to come over and shoot my wife. So there he mentions there's a couple of people that just don't get along with us. Now, I've listened to a lot of Sergio talk, and I've always felt that he is overdoing how nice they were as a couple, him and Liz, and how they got along with everyone. I've always felt that his words show there was some beef in life, and this is the first time I've actually heard him say it, and he doesn't say it very much anymore. He said it that morning to the police that they weren't as popular as he'd like to portray. They weren't loved by everyone. Here he says there's a couple of people that just don't get along with us. Interesting concepts here. He says there's a couple of people. Now, couple strictly means two. Yeah, so there's two people, and he could name those two people, but he doesn't. He says there are a couple of people. Now, think about when we use couple, and we mean not two, we mean a few. Yeah, so I've had a couple of drinks. I was doing that for a couple of hours. Yeah, couple strictly means two, but we use it in use. It means a few, more than two. So potentially more than two people that just don't get along with us. Not Liz, us, the pair of them together. It's that joint pronoun. But what he's introducing there is people who don't like the pair of them. So what he's introducing in his head there is a concept that potentially it was someone who didn't like him and is taking revenge by shooting his wife. We also get that through when he says, but not enough to come over and shoot my wife. Now, imagine how this would be worded if people had a grudge only against Liz. He would have said, there's a couple of people that just don't get along with her, but not enough to come over and shoot her. Yeah? So I'm wondering if actually these couple of people don't like Sergio. Don't like Sergio. That's why he uses my wife, because it seems to be in his wording there, he's saying that these couple of people he thinks don't like him enough to shoot my wife. Interesting. He's named some suspects. He thinks it's people in the charity group. Why? Well, this is interesting. He says, we're going through these little election things, and there's a couple of people that just don't get along with us. Now, at first listen, you might think he's saying there that the election is causing the grief, that there's something going on with the election that has caused people to not get along with us. But he doesn't say that. He states two different things. There's the elections going on, and people don't get along with them. Yeah? It's not people are not getting along with us because of these election things. It's there's an election going on and people don't get along with us. So we can't assume, because he hasn't said it, that the disagreement was about the election. The disagreement seems to be about something else that's not the election. Nancy asks Sergio, what are you talking about? And he goes on to say what he was talking about. And he says, I don't believe anyone in this group would ever hurt anyone like this. That is not the same thing as I don't believe anyone in this group would ever kill my wife or kill Liz. It's just a very general thing. It's hurt anyone, so that's not his wife, it's just anyone. And it's like this. So it's like this. It's not by doing that. Yeah, it's just like this. So I think he still holds in his head that potentially someone in a group that he's involved in could have hurt her. This is a group for good, he says. Well, listen, Sergio, factually, that is not a great thing. Just look at Diddy recently. A lot of work for charity. Great entrepreneur. Has done a lot of work for the community. Not a good person. Not good people get involved in charities all the time. In fact, sometimes it's the reason for someone getting involved in charity is to hide the bad that they have. And once again, he says that's what was happening. But what was happening? He says there's these like discussions and arguments that happen at the time. That's what was happening. But he doesn't really say what was happening, because again, he talks about there's elections and there's discussions and arguments, but that's in general. He doesn't really say what was going on at that time. So I don't think the beef with someone at this charity group was based around the elections. I think it was deeper than that. Maybe it came to a head at election time, but there was more to it than that. He talks about very honest things that could happen at elections. He says discussions first and arguments second. Well, discussions are, no one is ever killed because of a discussion. Sometimes people are killed because of an argument, but discussions is the first thing he mentions, and then arguments. So discussions first, arguments second. But he's talking in general. As elections go, there's discussions and arguments. So he's not really saying what was going on there. What was the argument about? Why did people not like? It's very, very qualified. Here's some more from Sergio.
Let me ask you very quickly, and I'm trying to get as much evidence as I can in as quickly as I can. Have you
Okay, here's the polygraph
Let
question.
me ask you very quickly, and I'm trying to get as much evidence as I can in as quickly as I can. Have you taken a polygraph?
Yes.
Have you taken one or two polygraphs?
I believe it was only one. Yes, it was one.
Did you pass the polygraph?
When I spoke to Detective Ritchie, he told me I had.
If you said he answers very straightforwardly to the first two questions, but there's something strange about the second question or the third question, you'd be right. Let's look at the full thing, including hearing from Detective Ritchie.
Let me ask you very quickly, and I'm trying to get as much evidence as I can in as quickly as I can. Have you taken a polygraph?
Yes.
Have you taken one or two polygraphs?
I believe it was only one. Yes, it was one.
Did you pass the polygraph?
When I spoke to Detective Ritchie, he told me I had.
Is that true, Sergeant Ritchie?
Yes. He did take a polygraph. Again, I'm not the one that conducted it, but I was told
Okay, fine.
by
He took the
investigator
polygraph.
that
Do you
ran
know
it.
if he passed it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
and
I
very
was told
quickly,
he
back to you,
passed.
Sergeant.
A little bit crosstalk at the end there, but let's break it down. Have you taken a polygraph? Yes. It's a yes-no show. So we're expecting a yes or a no, and he gives us a straight yes. He has taken a polygraph. I believe he's taken a polygraph. Even if I didn't have the detective to back that up, I would say he's taken a polygraph. Have you taken one or two polygraphs? Now, he's a bit weird there in saying, not remembering how many polygraphs that he gave. It was 5 years ago. Maybe the fact that she asked one or two threw him off, but he does say one. So the question is, have you taken one or two? And he directly does give the answer there, one. Yes, it was one. And did you pass the polygraph? And he doesn't say yes there. You know, it's a yes or no question. Did you pass the polygraph? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. He gives a qualified answer. When I spoke to the doctor, Detective Ritchie, he told me I had. And then it goes to Detective Ritchie. And Detective Ritchie's answers are very interesting. He's asked, is that true, Sergeant Ritchie? And he says, yes, he did take a polygraph. Again, I'm not the one that conducted it. Now, interestingly, is that true, Sergeant Ritchie, comes after the answer of I passed the polygraph. So actually, the is that true doesn't refer to did he take a polygraph, it refers to did he pass a polygraph. But what Sergeant Ritchie wants to confirm is yes, he did take a polygraph. Okay, fine, he took a polygraph. Do you know if he passed it? And he says yes. Yes, I was told he passed. Now, that's very interesting. Do you know if he passed it? He says yes, but what is the yes to? Is it yes, he passed it, or is it yes, I know if he passed it? Conceptually very interesting. And then look at the distance that every one of them, Sergio included, puts between themselves and the result of the polygraph. When Sergio is asked, did you pass the polygraph? He doesn't say, yes, I passed. He said, I spoke to someone who told me I had. So he doesn't say I passed. He's just been told I had. So it's second-hand information. It's come from someone else. So Sergio is not saying, I passed the polygraph test. He's qualifying it and saying, someone told me I'd passed it. Sergeant Ritchie wants to put some distance in there as well. He did take a polygraph, but I'm not the one that conducted it. So he's putting some distance between himself and the polygraph test as well. Really, really recurring theme here. 2 questions about it, and we have lots of distance there. And then under the crosstalk, if you take it all out, Nancy says, okay, fine, he took the polygraph. Do you know if he passed it? And Sergeant Ritchie says, yes, I was told he passed. So again, we have that distance in this polygraph result. No one is willing to say straight away, I passed the polygraph test. Now, these things could all be true. You know, Sergio could be told that he had passed. The detective could well have been told that he passed and is not wanting to affirm something that he has no direct knowledge of. But there is so much distance there. Reliably, 3 times the results of the polygraph are only known secondhand. No one is taking any ownership. So that's a look at that interview with Sergio. So where are you at? Listen, It's a really complex one. I've got many, many positives about Sergio. The way he talks about Liz, the way there's all that jointness and unity. Listen, just as a person, he answers every question he was asked very directly. He's not hiding anything. He's not trying to go and get across the stories that are important to him. He's staying directly on the questions. Yes, no questions. He's answering yes or no, bar that polygraph one. He doesn't talk ill of Liz. In fact, I think he's hiding things about Liz that were not perfect. Look, none of us are perfect, so this is not victim shaming, but I think he is hiding some things about Liz that are not perfect. And I think potentially some of those things may be a reason, a clue as to why she was murdered. This person that she may have upset, or perhaps hiding something in his life that he's not perfect, and that might be a reason that the murder is there. But look, he shows no signs of guilty knowledge. In casual moments, I was thrown into this, and he talks about the people that didn't like. I don't get the sense that he was really trying to chuck out a false suspect there whatsoever. I think we were just getting this minimizing of the bad things that happened in life. But look, those are the positives. I have questions. Was something up in the relationship? Because when he talked about the relationship in the past, then it was very joint. It was, we did things together. We were attracted to each other. But that morning, then I got the impression that there was a bit of separation there. Could just be he didn't like the fact she was having the garage sale. It could be something very simple like a normal spat, but there's a definite change in language when he describes the events of that morning and when he describes the events of their lifetime together. And is he hiding a threat or someone with a dislike for one of them? I wonder that. He did talk about these people that didn't like us. I think there was much more to that than the fact there was some elections and discussions going on. I think he might be hiding that. More questions I have for Sergio. Why the struggle with where he went that morning? Potentially it's not related to the murder directly. Potentially the job. There was something about the job that he does not want to talk about. Potentially, though, that's one of the reasons why people get into dodgy situations and why the focus that morning on things being normal. Why does he want to tell us things were normal when we know they weren't? There was a garage sale going on. He was late for work. Why does he want to do that? But ultimately, I don't think he's got guilty knowledge of the crime. I do think he knows more than he's saying. What are your thoughts? Do let me know in the comments if you can, or get in touch on social media. All the links are in the notes for the show. Also, if you want to get more Sergio comment, I'll put a list to the playlist where I've got all the episodes where I look at the murder of Liz Barraza. As I say, it's all about Sergio talking because Sergio talks quite a lot for someone whose wife was murdered. The subscribe button means you get more episodes like this as soon as they are released. And if you become a member on YouTube or you become a subscriber on Spotify, you get bonus exclusive content. And also you get episodes like this before anyone else. But at a minimum, hit that like button or share with people who are interested in the story of Liz Barraza or unsolved murders, unsolved crimes as well. I think a lot of people would like to look at this story and also learn how to look at someone's words and the words that they choose to use to see what's going on. NeverAtruerWord.com is the website. If you go there, you'll get more podcasts. You will get more videos. There's also a couple of books if you want to really delve into the words of people all around you. You can sign up for the newsletter. And as I said, you can also get in touch on all the socials. And we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.